Later that day, Harvey took Murdoch away. They couldn't find his tender, though, so he didn't have one for the time being. Murdoch was put up onto the works service station. The service station had a platform that would rise so workmen could check under the engine. Murdoch now had to wait for a new one to be made. His tender had exploded. "Hello, Toby. How are you doing?" "Oh, still not well. I miss Henrietta. Oh, how I wish she was still here." "Well, cheer up. She'll probably be found in the upcoming days. Goodbye." A few minutes later, Toby was almost finished with taking on water when... On, faster, faster! Ah! There had been a runaway. "I must go and stop them." And Toby went to stop. Meanwhile, Caroline was resting near Tidmouth Sheds. Then she saw a train rocket past. Then she saw Toby. Before she could do anything, a man tied a ball and chain to her so she couldn't move. He later ran away. About an hour later, Philip came in. "Hello, Caroline. What are you doing like that?" "Well, you see, Philip..." "Ah, what are these men doing?" "Let's go." They started the engine, but forgot there was a ball and chain in front. She struggled to move. "Will you stop it?" One of the men quickly got out and untied. They quickly hopped back in and raced away. Caroline raced up. She had a bad history with the men, especially back in April. However, the men didn't know that she could overheat. Then they saw the trucks had crashed from Oliver's train up ahead. "Oh no!" Toby just came racing through. Then Caroline did the unthinkable. They turned her right around and started driving off the road. Toby got out of the way, but then Caroline crashed into a sign. Whoa! She just barely dodged a tree. Then they raced right back onto the road. They still didn't stop. She crashed straight through the gates. Then Philip came racing down Gordon's Hill. Caroline came racing over the track and then over it again. Then Caroline drove right up onto the road and disappeared through the buffer. Caroline was in shock. They drove Caroline off into an area where there were no rails. However, it was still part of their hideout. Philip was shocked. He raced away to do other work. Then, during the night, one of the stupid men decided to take Caroline out for a ride. He did circles and circles with her. She did stunts, which she was never supposed to, and was crashing. "Ah, what are you, idiot! Look what you're doing! Whoa!" P.T. Boomer was woken up by the noise and watched. He got sprayed with mud, and the man didn't even see him until he crashed into him. The man flew out of Caroline's cab. Then Caroline saw her chance to escape. But then she went backwards. She wasn't used to doing this. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Oops! She quickly hurried away. "Get her!" Meanwhile, Gordon was on the main line. He was having a grand time. Gordon was having a wonderful time. He had never been so fast before. He was trying to break his own record. Meanwhile, Caroline had escaped to the bridge. But then she hit a rock. She was going to fall. Jack, meanwhile, was roaming the road. Then he saw Caroline was in danger. He quickly lifted his bucket. He was trying as hard as he could to hold her. "I'm going to fall, Jack." Then she took another dip down. Caroline had safely made it down and had only slightly damaged her wheel arches. Jack, however, had an extremely bent bucket. It had dents in it and all sorts of other holes. Meanwhile, recently, P.T. Boomer's hideout, the windmill, had been found. However, that day he left it, hoping no one would notice that he left. When they went in, no one was there, so they decided to wreck the property. P.T. Boomer now found a new area in the top of Marin Station. It was mainly used for an attic and had many strange things hanging about, but P.T. Boomer didn't mind. It had once been the house of the Marin Station master, but he had died a long time ago and now was being used as an attic. There was also a light fixture which would sometimes go off in the night, therefore revealing their plan. But for the most part, it was hit by a bat. P.T. Boomer was staring at a clock that they had found in a closet. He was wondering if he could make any of his diesels stronger with its parts. Then he started hearing an annoying humming sound from it, then a banging sound. He knew it would be bad if they heard the noise, so he quickly tossed it into the fireplace. So as the clock started making a warm fire for them. "Oh dear," he said. So while the clock burned, they decided to go over plans for tomorrow. One of P.T. Boomer's henchmen was trying to shove a machine through the doorway, but it was too wide. Doesn't seem to be working. There had been another incident with the power switch and it had gone out. They tossed the old machine out the window. "And this is what it was made for," said one of the henchmen to P.T. Boomer. P.T. Boomer stared at it. He turned it on. "Ooh, works good. And we'll use that tomorrow when we go and capture the engines." "Wait, all of them? I don't think that's gonna work." Oh, but it will. But it will. But it will. Said P.T. Boomer. Then it started going. There was something wrong with it. It started flashing on and off. P.T. Boomer fell over. "Shut it off! Just shut it off already! Look at it!" The men went over and crushed it to pieces. That was close. All of Murdoch's parts on his engine had been repaired. Harvey took him away. It was taking a long time for Murdoch's tender to arrive. Sir Topham Hatt had made an announcement that all cargo will be blocked from arriving unless it is checked. They were losing more and more passengers each day. Spencer hadn't been doing too much for the diesels, and honestly hadn't been doing too much for either side lately. When he decided to come off the diesels team, he thought it was only right considering what was going on with the railway right now. Sir Topham Hatt went out for his evening stroll and was thinking about Stafford. He had always been such a good engine, especially working with Rosie in the yard. He knew that he had to replace him, but he didn't know which engine to replace him with. He wondered and wondered. He knew that he probably was going to end up having to get a new engine, but he didn't know which new engine to get. Then he heard the sound of a fire engine. "What was that?" he said. He turned his back and noticed. "Why are they headed to my house?" Unfortunately, Sir Topham Hatt was wrong. The fire department was doing their best to get out of the fire. They were spraying it with water as much as they could, but they ran out of water, and there was no engine available. They had to let it burn down. The fire soon was out. It had taken a long time to go out. Sir Topham Hatt now still had nowhere to sleep, so they built him a cabin on the side of tin shed. It had a slightly covered area and was barely ever covered from the rain. Once all the legal paperwork was done, Gator was able to move freely about on the lawn. It was very windy that day, and leaves were all over the rails, therefore making them slippery. A can flew about. It landed in Sir Topham Hatt's new house. It damaged the roof, so now Sir Topham Hatt had to move to a new temporary home. It was hard for Gator to start up, but he thought it was just the wind. He was having an extreme amount of trouble. Then he heard a crash, a sputter, and a clank. He stopped. His driver and fireman didn't know what had happened. The fireman got up on top of Gator and saw that he had gotten oil. They knew they had gotten it from the water tower, but they were still very confused. Who would put oil in a water tower? They put Gator in a siding to have his engine checked. They also had his boiler cleaned. Soon he was done. He started up again. Let's go. A heavy barrel had pinned down the caboose, and Gator was struggling to go. The coupling on the back car was being extremely strained. He tried, and he tried. He just couldn't get it to move. Then he raced forward, only with 2 trucks from the train. He stopped up ahead. They saw what was inside the boxcar. Among them were usually pieces of wood and planks from the boxcar. But they found 2 strange things. It was supposed to be supplies, but they found an oil barrel and a barrel full of dynamite. However, the dynamite fuse hadn't been correctly lit, so therefore it didn't explode. Just then, Gator came back. He shunted the 2 freight cars from his train onto a siding while he went and investigated. Meanwhile, Ryan went and collected a few cars. He then went to get a caboose and was off. Ryan didn't know, but he was headed towards the area that had exploded yesterday. He came racing down the line. Then there was trouble. He braked hard, but he couldn't stop. He crashed into a bush. Thankfully, he wasn't badly hurt. Soon Ryan was taken out of the mess. But, however, Spencer was coming down that way. The workmen there yesterday had forgotten to put up stop signs so the engines didn't come through. Meanwhile, on Diesel's side, they were losing more and more members. Soon there was only 3 members left. Diesel 10 knew he had to do something to recruit more members. They had managed to save Norman, who was blown up from the accident. However, D199 could unfortunately not be salvaged as he had been hurt way too much. All right now. Now I know there are only 3 of us plus PT Boomer, but I will assure you that it's better off that we have less of those idiots. Do you hear me? Yes, sir. Now that coward Spencer decided to leave us, which he will be extremely regretting. Anyway, now I think it's best for us to find Lady. We've been doing it wrong all this time. We don't need to eliminate the steam engines. We need to eliminate her. But, boss, don't we just need gold dust to do it? I mean, isn't she, slightly supplying it? Yes, she is part of supplying it, but yes, she is part of supplying it, and she has a very big part in it, you see. Which is why we need to get her immediately. But boss, last time I read it, it said that she only has a little shut up, will you, Norman? I don't have time for your nonsense. Now let's hurry up, because if someone beats us to it, then we're doomed. Pinchy's hungry. I've told you so many times. It's an object. It cannot be hungry. Oh, shut up. Listen, I think we might have gotten our gator back. Why doesn't Sydney go and check on him? On it, boss. Sydney went over the hill and was very shocked to see that they hadn't gotten it. Instead, they saw the dynamite, the oil barrel, and pieces of the boxcar everywhere. Oh, boss won't like this. Boss, you probably won't like this, but our plan failed. What? This cannot be happening! How could it be failing? How? Just how, Sydney? Explain it to me! You see, boss, there was a little accident, and I guess the fuse was wet or something, and, it fell apart, therefore revealing our plan. Sydney, this is unacceptable! You were in charge of that! I know, boss. Well, what shall we do with you? Perhaps throw you into the melting pit? Perhaps. I don't know. Scrap you? Feed you to the birds? Decisions. Boss, you do know that if you kill him, that we're going to only have 2 of us? Right. Well, forget that idea. Sydney, I'll be staying with us. But if we had more, you would be gone in the blink of an eye. Now let's get on with it, shall we? Oh, Sydney, you got to pack it. From who? Here, why don't you see? I wonder what got you. Hey, boss, let me go. Fine. But don't you ever screw anything up like that again. Do you understand me? Yes, boss, you can let go of me now. Good. Now get on with it, you blasted fool. We're never going to win. They went to sleep thinking about the next day.